Hello and welcome. I am Allie Kavanaugh and I'm a professional watercolorist. I'll be using Core modern watercolors for today's project. If you're wondering what makes these watercolors modern, it's Core's patented formulation using the synthetic binder Aquazol versus the traditional gum arabic. Aquazol is clearer, more flexible, has better adhesion, and has been trusted by conservators for decades. I am going to demonstrate for you today a portrait using a minimal palette of just 3 colors. But before I do that painting, I've got some exciting news. Core has added 20 new colors to the line for a total of 96 colors. So I want to take a minute and run through each one of them quickly and tell you a little bit about their characteristics and how they might work for you. Isoindolinone yellow. This is a strong, intense yellow-orange that has been described as the color of orange peel or sunshine. It could be considered an intensely saturated version of Naples Yellow Deep. Pyrrole orange. This is a fairly opaque, intense, bright orange with a salmon or coral color as it's diluted in washes. DeSazo scarlet. This is an intense, semi-opaque orange red. This red will work well on any palette seeking saturated color. Ultramarine pink dark. This fills a unique color space and is a strong granulator. This can help add texture into your paintings. Phthalo blue red shade. This is a highly requested color. It's more violet leaning version of phthalo blue green shade. Both are very strong in mixing power and a little goes a long way. Naples Yellow Deep. This is a single pigment paint and is more saturated in orange in comparison with the original Naples Yellow. It's fairly opaque and will work well as a gouache. Benzimidazzolone burnt orange. Gosh, you guys, this is another one. You have got to have this on your palette. It's a transparent, rusty orange red. In washes, it's like a transparent version of Venetian red. Perylene crimson. This is a star of the new colors. It's a beautiful, rich, versatile crimson, and it's also in the Allie Kavanaugh portrait set. Brown umber. This is a lovely granulating introduction to the Core umber family. It ranges from a dark brown to a slightly yellow brown in washes. Payne's Gray Violet. Core's original Payne's Gray leans slightly towards blue, and this new color leans towards red violet. Since this is a dark gray to begin with, it can mute saturation and create a range of chromatic grays. Perylene Violet. This is one of my favorite colors from the new line. This dark reddish brown violet has a low color saturation, which makes it great for shadows and neutralizing with other colors. Cadmium Purple. This is a dark brownish reddish purple that granulates beautifully. This can lead to separation in washes when mixed with other colors. When diluted, the color may look like cool tarnished silver. Iridescent Copper. This color works great for embellishments, especially on top of earth tones, reds, and browns. Finally, we have 7 new interference colors. These offer a unique flip when viewed from different angles. Over white or lighter surfaces, the color will be subtle. Over black or darker surfaces, the color will be more dramatic. So those are the 20 new colors. Now for the portrait I'm going to do for you today, I pulled out 2 of the colors, Benzimidazzolone Burnt Orange and Payne's Gray Violet, with an additional color that is ultramarine turquoise, and that color is found in my portrait set, the Allie Kavanaugh portrait set. Now I'm going to brush each one out for you so you have a little idea of what they look like. The first one is the Payne's Gray Violet, and the thing that I love about this color is I love that it has the versatility of the Payne's Gray. I always have Payne's Gray on my palette. It's my go-to for everything when it concerns value. And the thing that I like about this is then it leans more violet, and this is great for a lot of skin tones in portraits. So that is the Payne's Gray Violet. So the next color is Benzimidazzolone Burnt Orange. The thing that's great about this color is it's like a transparent Venetian red. Look at the transparency of that. It's so gorgeous. Because Venetian red is opaque. Take that beauty of Venetian red and make it transparent. It's like, that's what's amazing about it. This is an incredible color, this color. This is the third color that I'm using. It is the ultramarine turquoise. This color is found only in my portrait set, the Ali Kavanaugh portrait set by Core. So the thing I love about this color is that once painted, it granulates beautifully and it separates into two colors, the ultramarine and the phthalo green. And I just love that about this color. You're going to see how I work that in the painting too, but it just, it's kind of like the iridescent color shifting colors. You get like two colors for one, and it does really beautiful things. When I'm doing a portrait with these three colors, I use the Payne's Gray Violet to establish the value, and then I will use the burnt orange and the ultramarine turquoise as the warm and cool balance. I think one of the best ways to start, especially if you're beginning, or if you want your painting to have a strong vibe, is to start an underpainting. Pick your color, it doesn't matter. I'm using the Payne's Gray Violet for this, but you could use any color for your underpainting. And I've established a really good foundation, but I'm going to continue building up a little bit more. I'm going to continue to build up a little bit more on this underpainting. And it'll give the painting a lot of structure. It'll make it cohesive right from the beginning. So whatever you build up on top, that underpainting is going to keep it solid. It's giving your painting a really good foundation. I chose the Payne's Gray Violet really because I tested this color when it was in the development stages, and I just loved it with the benzimidazolone burnt orange. And Golden wanted me to put a painting together here for Fabriano. I thought, you know what, this Payne's Gray Violet and the burnt orange is such an awesome combo with the ultramarine turquoise. That's what I wanted to demo for you guys. And the reason why I like it is because it's easy. It's a really easy 3-color, minimal, limited palette. I think you're going to love the way it looks with the darker skin tone. The model that I'm painting today, she has a lot of beautiful darker tones in her skin. And I think you guys are going to like how these colors are balanced. Very simple for a medium to darker skin tone. Payne's Gray Violet is very unique. The thing that I love about it is it's got that, it's like Payne's Gray in that it mixes with everything really, really well. But it has that violet tone, which is so awesome when you're contrasting it with a really warm color like the burnt orange that I'm going to be coming in with later. So those two just complement each other very well, and mixed with that ultramarine turquoise. So these are the 3 colors that I'm going to use for this entire painting. And like I said, this is a wonderful combination for a medium tone skin to a dark tone skin. So also, I think it's important to note that I'm working Core watercolor ground on Fabriano Artistico paper. And it's probably one of my favorite surfaces to work on. I usually work on panel. I don't work on paper as much. The way that the Core ground absorbs into the paper, and you guys are going to see that I can move the color around on the paper. So I think the thing that I love about using the Core ground on the paper is that it keeps the paint very movable and workable. It's very forgiving. I think you're also gonna like how it gives you a lot of personality with the paint blooms. The thing that I really like about treating the paper with the core watercolor ground is that it will make the paint very workable, very forgiving. You can move it around, you can change things up. If it gets too dark, you can lighten it up. As it dries, if an edge is too harsh and you want it to be soft, like in here I'm going to be coming in with the benzy burnt orange, and I feel like this turquoise kind of creeped up a little bit. All I have to do is just take some water and remove that. And that's already dry, but I can remove that, soften that edge. So, let's see, we got the main structure down with the Payne's Gray Violet, just establishing my basic values. Now, second, going in with the ultramarine turquoise for the cool shadows. After this sets up and dries, then I'm going to be going in with the benzy burnt orange to bring that warm light that's coming down on her. I'm going to bring that into the skin tones. Now we're ready to start with the benzy burnt orange. And I'm going to use this just in her skin, and a little bit into her hair, but mostly just her skin, and it's going to make her skin glow, have that warm, gorgeous glow. Whenever you're picking colors for a portrait, let's say, it's really important that you're always considering the warms and the cools and how they're going to interact with each other. And this, with this minimal palette and these three colors, the Payne's Gray is really the value. That's the light and the dark. And then I have a cool and a warm. And you'll see how as I'm building up, how I'm using the cool and the warm as a contrast. Where the light falls on the skin, that's going to be warm. In the shadows, it's going to be cool. So that contrast of the warm and the cool always makes a really beautiful, dynamic portrait. I work in very thin layers, and it takes me a while to get up to where it needs to be. So I will do these thin layers and layer and layer and layer, and as it builds, that is what really gives me that depth and the form. Because the core watercolor ground prevents the watercolor from staining the paper, it still keeps the paint, as I'm layering, able to mix. It's really neat, and I hope that they will, I don't know how to say this, I hope you guys will try the core watercolor ground on the paper. Keeps the paint workable. It keeps every layer workable. If you lay the paint down, lay the layer down, that stays on top. If you keep scrubbing, it'll start mixing with the layers below. I like these little white sponges, and that will really help pull out areas. Like, I want this to be kind of a cleaner area for that burnt orange. So I'm just gonna carve that out. You can use the sponge to soften anything. After I get my main values established and my main kind of color blocking on it, then I'll go into her hair and really get into the deep, dark depths and define all the hair and the darkest area in the eyes and the nose and all of that. But right now, I'm just working on the main big blocks of color. And I can do this with a lot of freedom. I keep saying this because of that core watercolor ground. That's really, for me, that's key, to have that flexibility, have fun. I don't, nothing is permanent. If I don't like it, I can wipe it out later. I've kind of got the basics established here. I want to make sure I work in the undertones here, where I'm seeing the glowy, warmer colors. But on the hairline where the skin kind of blends into the hair. When I'm really developing areas like the eyes, the nose, the mouth, and as I'm going to here in just a minute, start working into the details, I'm using very little paint. When you use less paint, you're going to get less granulation. The water's pooling, separating, and that granulation is going to look awesome. But when I'm really working into the details and developing very tight and rendered areas, I just use a lot less paint. And then the granulation doesn't matter because it's not going to show up. But I definitely like granulation for certain things. And you can see as the paint is drying, there's lots of blooms. Now, if I don't want those blooms, when I get to really developing the form in that eye, I can just blend those blooms out with my brush. And that's because this paper is treated with the core watercolor ground. That keeps the paint very, very workable. The great thing about these three colors too is that they're all transparent. And that transparency is great to mix, even, kind of colors that are opposite. When it's transparent, it doesn't make mud. As soon as you get something opaque, one of your colors are opaque, and you start mixing it, you're going to be it's very susceptible to get mud. And that's because that opaque color in there. But you can even see here the orange and the violet together. That's a beautiful brown. The Benzie Burnt Orange has beautiful transparency to it, and it's really great for like that little glow that's in the skin and the core shadow of the skin when the light filters through the skin. as I build this up. It's very light right now, but as it builds, the color will get more and more intense. This part is such a focal point of the painting that it really has to be done very accurately and with a lot of detail. I always want to look at what's going to be the focal point of the painting and develop that area, and then keep the rest of it kind of loose. When I work on aquaboard, a lot of times I'm using the tiny brushes and building up, and the the students are always like, do you have to use little brushes? And as you can see, I'm using a lot bigger brushes right now. When I was painting something that's really going to be developed super, where I'm going to spend weeks and weeks on it, I'm going to use smaller brushes for the entire development of it, because that'll really help give me the most control. I'm going to go in and get some of the darks in the hair. I'm going to do this with the two cool colors. Her hair is black. Like I said before, it's black, and so I don't want to get any warm colors in there. Now that I have this painting where I want it, I am going to embellish it with some iridescent and interference colors. First thing I want to do is switch out my palette. Kind of difficult to tell what these colors are going to look like when they come out of the tube. See how they look very similar. Now when they're on the black palette, and when I start to add water, you're going to see that color. And then this is the iridescent copper. So you can see the iridescent copper comes out looking true to color. And the copper, I'm going to be putting this, I'm going to enhance some of the skin tone areas with the copper. So the first thing I'm going to do with the interference is I'm going to go into the reflections in the eyes. This is what I love about dark eyes, is that you can really see really beautiful detail reflections in them. While I'm on the eyes, I'm going to do a little bit of the copper. So the iridescent copper works really well with the burnt orange that I've used in this painting. I want to do some more splashy stuff in the hair. And I'll probably bring some splashy stuff down into the rest of the figure too. A really beautiful dynamic portrait. So that is going to set up and just be beautiful how it blooms, and then you'll get that marbling throughout the color. And these are all the color shift ones, which are very interesting. The color shift will actually shift color depending on where you're at, where your eyes are at. As you move across the painting, walk past the painting, you will see the colors change. So yeah, while this is setting up, I'm going to show you a little test painting that I did with interference and iridescent colors. And I did this with the pan set. And this was just painted on a black panel. So now that this first layer is dry, I can kind of see what it's doing. You never really know until it sets up and dries, and then you can kind of see where you want to add more, or maybe even take some off. One of the things I love about the interference and iridescent colors in the core line is that the pigment flows just as well as all the other watercolors, so it doesn't get heavy. Some other ones that I've tried, the pigment gets kind of heavy and it won't move and bloom beautifully, but these bloom so beautifully. So I really like this sort of fairy spirit vibe that's going here. So that's why I want her hair to sort of dissolve up. I'm definitely wanting to add more going out of the hair, kind of going up. Definitely want to do that. And I want to add some copper coming down into her skin tones. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add more into the hair. I'm going to have some gravity pull it up. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of the iridescent copper into the skin. I'm going to take the iridescent copper into the warm areas of the skin. And I'm going to do that by tilting the painting. I'm going to tilt it and use gravity to run the color down. I'm going to let this dry, and then I'm going to do more of the copper down in here, but I really like how this water is ending right here. And it'll give some depth and shape to her neck and where it sits into the collarbone. Now I'm going to do a little bit more down in here, and the copper will be done, and then I'm going to go in with one little special thing at the very end. The iridescent, the shimmer of the iridescent, I would describe it kind of like makeup, like a powder that's got a shimmer to it, where it's the interference is very bold and bright. The shimmer is very bold and bright, and the copper is very velvety, a very velvety, even shimmer. The last thing that I want to do is I want to add some highlights, just a couple little bright spots in the face. And what I'm going to use for that is the iridescent pearl. And this will be, I mean, it is what it says, it's just like a white pearl. So I'm going to add a little bit of that. Okay guys, this is it. We're done. I hope you enjoyed my demo today. I'm happy that I got to demonstrate some of the new colors for you, the iridescence and the interference colors. I hope they inspire you in your studio, and thank you for watching.